Hello and welcome to the DTC podcast. I'm Eric Dick, and today we are thrilled to have Torrie Belknap, VP Marketing of Tuft Needle, the grizzled veteran of the D2C mattress wars, along with Nicole Campanga, Senior Growth Manager from SheerID. Now, many brands struggle with how to be present during a crisis. Retailers have been hit hard by the pandemic, and those who continue to lean in have not only found and continue to find new customers, but they find that they've found very loyal customers that stay with them. Today, we're going to explore how brands like Tuft Needle emotionally connect with consumers in difficult times and yield significant dividends by aligning their brand initiatives with performance marketing efforts to create exclusive offers that honor and resonate with target audiences. Nicole and Torrie, welcome to the D2C podcast. How are you both doing?
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
Very excited. Okay, Torrie, let's start with you. You are as we say, a veteran of the great mattress wars. Can you tell us a little bit about your hero's journey and how you came to be where you are in the marketing world?
Yes. So I have a weird journey for sure. I actually have been with Serta Simmons Bedding for over 3 years, almost 4 years now. I started with them at their version of a direct-to-consumer company called Tomorrow Sleep, which some people may remember, most probably don't. But what they wanted to do was start to compete in the space against the Caspers and the Purples and all of the other kind of competitors, including Tuft Needle. And after about a year and a half, what they decided is that rather than trying to start their own version of a D2C company, they would do better to actually merge with a company that's already has a foothold, a loyal following, great customer experience. So they ended up purchasing or acquiring Tuft Needle. And so through that process, I worked with the Tuft Needle team, became really involved with their management and marketing folks to talk about what worked for us, how can we continue to improve the experience for the Tuft Needle customer, and through that ended up just coming on full-time to Tuft Needle. So my role now is not only to manage the media buying for Tuft Needle, but also for Serta, Simmons, and Beautyrest brands. So it's been a weird journey.
Very, very interesting. Now, I wanted to ask you, what would you say has been the unique superpower that you have as a marketer or as a manager that's really allowed you to be successful in your role?
I think the ability to adapt and change as needed. This is a very weird industry, as I'm sure anyone who's done any research on it can tell you. It's very competitive, and going from a brand and my background, which is very D2C focused, digitally native brands, and now trying to work through some of the challenges that these legacy brands like a Serta and a Beautyrest are facing, where Beautyrest, as of a year and a half ago, they didn't even have e-commerce functionality. So it's definitely been able to adapt to explain some of this new technology to executives and other individuals who maybe aren't as familiar, and really making a case for why we have to move quickly.
You're like the chosen one between two worlds there, because you've worked at these big companies for a while, but you have the performance market. You know what needs to be done in the performance marketing world, but you've got to be able to like whisper to the big companies.
Yeah.
to get. I'm sure that's a real struggle, or it can be.
Oh, yeah.
It can be a challenge.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think every big company has its own challenges, but when you come from one that's hundreds of years old and has done things this way for hundreds of years, it can be special case. Definitely unique challenges.
Very interesting. Okay, how about you, Nicole? Why don't you give us a little intro into your marketer's hero's journey and tell us a little bit about SheerID?
Yeah. So a little bit about myself. I've been working for tech companies for about the last 7 years in the demand gen / growth space. And one of the reasons that I came over to SheerID was, for a long time, I've been working in the space of technology. But what I really love that SheerID does is we really help the consumers in different segment groups receive special offers that are meant just for them. And so what I really liked about joining this team over here was that at the end of the day, what our product does is not only does it help brands really gate and keep those offers special for these consumers, but it really helps a lot of different consumer groups receive really great different offers that are just for them, and it keeps them specific just for them. And so here at SheerID, we're really just about verifying those offers and making sure that you are who you say you are at the end of the day, so that brands, aren't eroding, their brand at all, but also the customers are really receiving that special offer.
It's so interesting. And it's again, it's just an example of how good things can be when you really lead with value. You're just providing value to consumers based on their identities. So you're by celebrating their identities. And it's so it kind of makes it a no-brainer as you're selling it to brands or to any of these groups.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It really is. And what you said hits the nail on the head. It's really leading with the value for them. And also what it's doing, it's tapping into more than just like their demographic data. It's really brands really showing that they know their customers and connecting with them on a whole different level, instead of kind of, I always think of the Joe from, did you guys ever watch that TV show on Netflix, You?
I didn't see it, no.
Okay. So what it was
You're
is,
missing out, friend.
yeah,
I gotta see it. I'll get on it.
Yeah, you'll definitely want to check it out after this. But really, in You, what happens is this guy, Joe, I believe is his name, he is stalking this woman. And it's all based on this kind of surface level data that he can see out there from her Instagram and her Facebook and her shopping habits. And what we really are able to help brands do is really go a step further. It's not creepy. It's really helping them put an offer out there for the customers, and then the customers coming and redeeming that offer and giving that information on their own and deciding to opt into that. And so that's something that has been really valuable for not only for the brands, but for the consumers as well, just with all the changes that are going on right now with data and security.
Yeah. Now, like in terms of emotional, purchases that you have an emotional connection to, I imagine that beds are one of the most personal connections we have. I broke the bank on a bed, 8 years ago, and every single time I lay down into it, I thank myself for having invested in something like that. So I was wondering, Torrie, can you tell us a little bit about the emotional heart of the Tuft and Needle brand, and really how you think about, connecting with consumers on that emotional level?
Yeah, so I think to understand the heart of Tuft Needle, it's helpful to know the origins. So JT Marino and Dahi Park are the co-founders of the company. And about 8 years ago, they went to go buy a mattress. And JT in particular just had a really bad experience. He had very pushy salespeople, and the delivery experience, they like tracked mud into his apartment, and he paid too much money for it, he thought, and then he couldn't return it. And it was just a really bad experience. And so what they did as a result is they went and they created something we called the hate list. They basically wrote everything down that they thought was wrong with the industry. And between the two of them, they thought that even if they could just fix a couple of those problems that they had identified, that they would make for a much better experience for the customer. And so over the years, that's really been the foundation and the seed of every value that we have as a company. We consider ourselves transparent, we are honest, we listen to the customer, they give us feedback about our products, and we incorporate them and make sure that we're making adjustments based on what people are, wanting and needing from us. So it's definitely about putting the customer first, listening to them, providing the kind of experience that we would want as customers, and making sure that we're giving that to everybody, making it accessible.
Very cool. Can you talk a little bit about how you came across SheerID and what that first integration looked like?
Yes. So funny enough, we have been giving military discounts for years, but we used to do it manually. So we would have individuals call, and they would say, they're in armed, forces or wherever they were doing their service, and we would kind of just take their word for it. And we like to assume positive intent and work for the 99% who are honest and not trying to take advantage. So we would just manually go in and give these individuals a discount. And it just became such a time suck. And it was a poor experience for the customer too. If you want that discount, you just want to, put it in online and be able to get it and go. And we were having them call us or chat us so we could do it for them. And so SheerID really helped provide a solution to all of that. They made it more timely, much better experience for the customer. They verified that, the information they were telling us was accurate. And it was really just a fantastic solution for what we were trying to do.
Very cool. And so what other, so give me some example of other segments that you can target with SheerID. You've got military, nurses.
Yep,
What
first
other sort of like key
responders,
identity targets are there?
first responders, I believe teachers as well. Nicole, you probably have a more
Yeah.
thorough list.
Yeah, first responders, healthcare workers, anybody in the healthcare community, teachers, students, seniors. I mean, really, you name that identity segment, we can verify that.
Super interesting. And like and I imagine identities are a growth market as well. Like I imagine more and more people are looking for ways to kind of identify themselves, especially in ways that can provide discounts and things like that. Like how big of a slice of the pie are we talking about with people with identities?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's really around 70% right now out there in the consumer base.
Wow.
It's a large amount, and this is something that's new. Really, the Tuft Needles of the world, and brands are really tapping into this. This is a new way of personalizing the approach and reaching out to the customers.
And okay, so let's talk about so you talk about being 70% of the addressable market potentially in these groups. And then what kind of lift can you see when you market with these with celebrating these identities in mind on the front end? I guess the question for you, Torrie, are you specifically using these identities top of funnel with your ads in order to drive higher conversion percentages when people get to some sort of customized page that celebrates their identity as a nurse or a first responder?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this definitely provides opportunity for personalization and creating more relevant ad experiences to individuals who have purchased from us, maybe, giving them additional discounts for coming back and buying a second product, or even just giving them relevant content to who they are and what they have identified that they care about. So it's definitely been an opportunity for us.
I love it. But that's more of a middle or bottom of funnel. That's for keeping customer lifetime value. That's awesome. You almost have like, what's the average lifetime on a bed? It's like you almost can just set your watch on it in a way as to when you're going to be, reaching back out to them again. But I'm wondering, is this something that can work top of funnel as well in terms of sort of advertising to these groups?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there are ways that we can leverage the information that we're getting from the customers who have used SheerID to find lookalikes, to find other kind of attributes that maybe are similar, that we can try and find others who kind of fall into the same sort of grouping. You want to try and make it as segmented as possible because you want it to be as personal as possible.
Very cool. And then what kind of boost do you see on the conversion rates? Like when you're using these sort of customized funnels versus ones that don't take into account anyone's identity, what sort of boosts are you seeing?
So we've done some testing where we've had personalized assets that have gone out and then led to kind of a custom landing page that speaks to that same audience and kind of uses the same imagery. So it's meant to be a very consistent experience. And we have seen, between 5 and 15% lifts in conversion rate when we use that tactic.
Crazy. Significant over, especially, 50, 60, 70% of the addressable audience as well.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Now, one of the things, Nicole, we talked about was iOS 14. People's identities, people's data have never been, more contentious or more of an issue right now. I'm wondering, like, how do you feel? We're all trying to guess ahead of what the iOS 14 sort of situation is going to be like. What does it mean for a product like yours?
For us, our stance is it's a good thing. Customers should have more control over their data that they provide and that they share. Business is really, it's based on trust, and this helps with that. That's why our product is completely opt-in and it's self attested. One of the reasons that our founder, Jake, had started SheerID was because it was very personal for him. His wife is a teacher and his father-in-law is a military veteran, and he saw that they were having to go and give very personal information, like right in front of people or over the phone. And so he wanted to create a product that allowed people to keep their data safe and to opt into giving the information and not having to have it just floating around out there or leaving it at the front or potentially having it left on a voicemail so that they can redeem an offer. And so for us, this is something that we really think is a good thing and is going to help really create even better trust. And what that does is it creates even more retention for brands, because then their customers feel valued. They trust the brand that they're working with. And that's what continues keeping them coming back for more. And like Torrie was saying, then when you have that data, you know, as a brand and you have it yourself and it's that first party data, you can continue to build off of that.
And that's the name of the game for all brands these days, is building up that first party data. And when you can use a tool that allows you to enrich it in a meaningful way, you know, in a way that's not just like, oh, I know they're a nurse, but I know they're a nurse and that they value it enough to use it in checkout, for instance. That's what about you, Torrie? I know we spoke a little bit about iOS 14. I bet as the head of acquisition or marketing at a company like yours, it's something that's keeping you up at night a little bit. What are your top level thoughts on iOS 14?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely, we are definitely in the opposite boat of Nicole at SheerID. So it's definitely more challenging to give reason to customers to give us some of that really personal information. And that's something that we're constantly trying to test and understand is, what do people care about? Is it discounts? Yeah, people care about discounts. Is there other value adds that we can give to them? Resources. We've talked about, you know, instructions on how to sleep, which sounds really goofy, but, you know, no one ever gets instructions on the right way to lay on your side, or, you know, these random kind of ideas that we have floating around on what do people care about and what can we give them that would make them feel like they want to hear from us and they want to continue to engage with us and give us some of that really more personal information. So it's going to be a challenge, but I think it'll be a good test too.
And a real opportunity for your kind of product. Like, you know, I'm more likely to develop that kind of, you know, with the idea of jobs to be done. Everyone wants to feel rested. Everyone wants to feel alive and vibrant and all those things. So you've got a pretty good base to work from, I feel like.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to give that information more than I would to a teeth whitening product, for instance, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we're banking on that kind of.
Very cool. And is that all done? So then you're doing that post-click, you're doing that with sort of just engaging people over email. I was just wondering how you guys were using SMS. Do you have anything to speak to there?
We aren't currently. It's something that we're exploring for 2021.
Okay, very cool. We had some questions on here about about like speaking with your consumers, like during these challenging times. We haven't, these challenging times are actually probably a year old as of almost today. I feel like we're in the year anniversary of the first sort of lockdowns happening. And I'm just wondering, how have you addressed that? I guess to start with you, Torrie, I'm wondering, is that something that you think about when you're messaging people on your list? How have you sort of messaged people around the things that are happening in the world?
Yeah, we have definitely been using and being cognizant of incorporating recent events into all of our messaging, all of our creative, all of our conversations with customers. You know, it's also required us, I think, to be more transparent and over communicate. You know, there's been a lot of supply chain challenges, for example, in the last year, just because of everything that's been happening. And so we want to make sure that we're being over communicative and we're letting everyone of our customers know that, you know, we're sorry, we're going to make it up to you, we're going to fix this problem if there's something like that that's occurring. It's also been a really good opportunity for us to take a step back and reflect on what the expectations are for us as a company. You know, there are definite things that customers are requiring us to do now, you know, with the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, what are we doing to improve diversity in our workplace? How are we, you know, improving our diversity in our assets and our creative? So it's required us to really take a step back and almost pledge to our followers and to our customers that we're going to do better.
Interesting, but it's been and that's filtered into all your customer communications.
Absolutely.
Very, very, very pivotal. Interesting stuff here. Okay, so one other question too about, you know, once you have these, you know, these identities as part of your customer avatars, nurses, first responders, teachers, students, what are you doing on that, in that post-click, in that email environment, in order to leverage those identities into more sales? Is it literally just emailing people along those lines, or what have you experimented on the back end with?
Yeah, so we've definitely experimented with higher level breakouts. So, you know, nurses versus a first responder, and how does the creative reflect that? Can we modify copy to speak a little bit more specifically? Can we create specific discounts. For example, if, during COVID, there was obviously a very stressful time at the beginning where everything kind of hit all at once. So can we give deeper discounts for individuals and make sure that we're speaking to that, and knowing that, they know that we're empathetic and we're here to help support them get the rest that they need while they're going through this crazy time. Teachers for back to school, new year, you're going to need a lot of good rest when you're dealing with students, for example. So there's
especially
a lot of yes. So there's a lot of opportunity to think about life moments or moments that happen throughout the year, and how can we assist with making your rest a better experience.
Love it. Nicole, what are some other, have you seen other people use the product in really innovative ways for their marketing? Any examples?
Yeah, I mean, I think some really great examples that were happening, especially at the start of the pandemic, was Chipotle actually went out and offered free burritos to nurses. So they gave thousands and thousands of burritos away at all of their locations for those frontline workers, which was just phenomenal to see. And the lines were crazy, and the experience was great for them because they could instantly verify it and receive that much needed burrito after a long day's work, which was awesome. FabFitFun, which is a subscription box, they were giving out free boxes to healthcare workers during the time. Rothy's, they jumped on board and they started really working on helping create masks and doing discounts for not only just like frontline healthcare workers, but teachers too. I think you bring up a really good point. My neighbor is actually a teacher, and she's got her kids, she's working from home. She's trying to teach class online. She's trying to do all these things. And so she's a frontline worker as well. And so seeing all these different brands really step up and step out to help their consumer base was really inspiring to see, especially during this year when there's been a lot of negative, right? Not everything's been positive, not everything's been great, but some of these brands like Tuft Needle and other customer brands that we help are really going, okay, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna give back to the people that are making our brand successful. And that's been something that I think has been really positive to see, and I think we don't hear enough of.
Meeting customers where they are is something that we sort of say again and again on this podcast. And I think that the SheerID tool and these opportunities, with these things that are happening in the world, when people can kind of put those things together, you can really meet customers where they are, which is only going to help the customer experience, help your sales, help everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Very interesting. Well, Torrie, while I'm just really curious about traffic. I'm wondering from Tuft and Needle's perspective, what does your sort of digital marketing mix look like, and what platforms are you maybe more excited about in 2021?
Yeah, so because of all of the events of last year, we've definitely been a little bit more conservative with our spending, and so we've pared things back a bit, and really focused on just driving bottom of funnel to mid funnel performance. We're also working right now on a rebrand, which is super exciting for us. We've got new management in the house now. And so that's something that we're going to be building up on. And I think what really excites me about that is the opportunities to go into some more of the channels that I think some of our competitors are already in that we haven't really had the opportunity to play in yet. So I'm thinking OTT and CTV. We haven't really done a ton of podcasts or audio ads at this point. SMS that you mentioned before, all of those are on the table, and really also opening up some of our event opportunities. We have 9 retail stores across the country, so we're going to be able to step up and do more in-store events hopefully soon, and really try and drive foot traffic in addition to digital traffic.
I love it. And that's as brands reach maturity, that really, when you start out, you really have this idea, you got to, your hammer your Facebook ads, your Instagram ads, really grow that digital presence. But as brands mature, we're hearing again and again, it's really that holistic approach that does include retail, and especially for products that you want to experience in a lot of cases, like beds.
Absolutely. Yeah. The retail stores have been pivotal in really providing that full experience to our customers. It's not only where they can go and physically try the products, but it also is where we can really put our best customer experience reps out there and give them the pivotal Tuft and Needle experience. So it's been critical for us.
I have to ask, just because it's top of mind, we just did our 3-day pre-sale page challenge where we taught the lost art of building, content-rich pre-sale experiences for products, especially ones that have higher average order values. I have to ask you, are you using pre-sales on your Facebook and Instagram ads?
We are not at this point.
Oof,
We are not.
well, we should talk. If we want to talk pre-sales,
Yeah.
we'll whip you up a pre-sale and see how it helps. But no,
Perfect.
always have to ask. I wanted to ask, is there anything that I didn't ask that I should have while I have these two powerful women on my podcast? What do you think, Nicole?
One thing I don't think we've touched on actually is, Torrie, if maybe talking about what you do for the fire departments. That's something that I think is just it gives back and is such a great program. And maybe if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So are you talking through like SheerID, or are you talking about our Gives Back program?
Give backs just in general, like what I think you guys do a lot of great give back programs. And
yeah, we do have a really incredible Gives Back program, and we try and focus on different areas. Up to this point, we've been pretty generous with, with things that people individually care about. So for example, we've done a lot of school donations. So if you buy a mattress in a certain school district, we'll give funding back to that school so they can, afford more supplies and other things of that nature. We've worked with a couple of charities like Sleep in Heavenly Peace, Habitat for Humanity. We definitely value volunteering and giving back, and that includes to a bunch of organizations and groups in the community, including like you mentioned, the fire departments, Habitat, other groups as well.
This level of corporate responsibility, communication, I find so interesting. One of our first podcasts we did with Vessi Footwear, and it's awesome to do these altruistic kinds of things for the world, but they also have benefits that go throughout your marketing, your customer experience. Like it's really a again, leading with value type situation, and it brings value through your whole organization.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's also it's been a really cool bonding experience too. I will say, when we weren't relegated to our homes, we were able to actually dedicate full days where we break up into teams and all go and volunteer together. And so in addition to it being important to customers and to people who are buying from you to know that you're giving back and you're doing good things for the community, it's really a morale booster, and it provides a lot of good bonding amongst team members. So it's been valuable in many ways. I would say.
Very cool. We have one stock question that I'll spring on you as well. If the Canadian government, let's say I'm Canadian, my Canadian government decided Tuft and Needle needed a $50,000 grant, where do you put it into your marketing budget right now?
I would say right now, because we're working on rebranding and we want to continue to improve the story and elevate our story and help explain customers what we bring to the table compared to some of our competitors, I would say we'd focus on getting some really solid creative, and then finding some good personalized advertising opportunities to relay some of those creative stories. So I think a perfect example, like we just talked about, is teachers. If we're thinking school, they've obviously had a really tough time recently. So can we tell a really compelling story about a teacher who, is getting better rest with our product, be it true, or, we can get some actors to do that for us, and really relay that to others out in the space who are teaching, or who, have teachers in their families, and just really make it a more personalized story that's meaningful and that has value to the individuals who are going to view it.
That sounds like a great idea. Also sounds like a pre-sale page. But it sounds like it'd be great on a pre-sale page. But no, that does sound excellent. What about you, Nicole? If there was, I know, it's a bit of a different thing running a software business, but I'm curious where you'd put, a $50K grant.
I think that's a great question. Actually, it's very similar to one of the things that Torrie was just saying. I think where we'd probably put it is really getting the customers who are going through and doing the SheerID experience, like incentivizing them to come and talk about it. I think that's kind of one of the first things that comes to mind that we've been thinking of here. Is it's such an easy and seamless experience, but we want to also give back to the customers in some way. And we'd love to probably put it into that, because those testimonials are the best. It's great having not only our own customers talk about SheerID and what we do, but really having the consumer who's going through the process and experiencing that on the front end, really elevating that story, I think would be what we would put that towards.
Love it. So if people want to know more about SheerID, what do you suggest they do, Nicole?
just feel free to just hit the website, SheerID.com, and you can learn more about it there, especially under the retail side of the house. Go to the retail page because that's most of your listeners here, and you'll get some good information there.
Fantastic. Thank you both for coming on today. Torrie, I would love to have you at some point. One of the things we love to ask is when we get, high level D2C folks on here, we want to try to get them to write a blog post for us in the future and become part of our D2C boardroom series. So I may hit you up about that.
I would be glad to.
I think you got a lot to share, which is fantastic. So thank you both for coming on today. Go to SheerID.com. Tell them that D2C sent you if you do it, and when you do it. And yeah, thanks again.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, cheers anytime.